Hello everyone, Toonworld here. Hopefully you're all having a wonderful day whenever it is you are watching this video. Today, I'm going to be showcasing to you some matches between P.U.N.K, Therion, and Kashtira on Dueling Book Ladder. This was in testing for the upcoming YCS, though maybe you're watching this afterwards. Regardless, this video is meant to showcase to you some nice commentary on how to play P.U.N.K Therion in the current format. So, this is new content for me, so you will have to bear with me as I go through the video. If you do have any feedback or whatever has occurred throughout this video, whether it be, maybe you want me to do better commentary on certain aspects of the game state, maybe you want me to change things up while going through the replays so that it isn't just DB Grinder light, though otherwise, yes, please feel free to do so in the comments below. Also, remember to like and subscribe, as it obviously helps the channel grow, and I do appreciate it. Otherwise, I will get on with the video. Okay, so as I enter this first match, as you will see, I get to go first. And obviously, being the combo deck that we are, this is preferred for us, because of course we get to set up our negates and ideally lock our opponent out of playing the game. As you can see, I do open up quite a few number of P.U.N.K extenders and names, which is good. It does help us move through hand traps. So as we move forward, so I check the extra deck, just check to see what happens. I lead off with the Shirakusai. The reason why is because my logic was I wanted to save the names in hand to extend further if my opponent had an Ash Blossom or some sort of hand trap, since we already had enough extenders in hand to do so. Of course, there were different ways to play around a potential Ash. I mean, it's easy for me to say this now because we can see that he has the Ash in hand, though in hindsight, I wouldn't have known. So we could have done this slightly differently. Maybe activate the E-Telly, get out Zayman, see if we could bait out the Ash any other way. Though I decided to leave off of the Shirakusai just because with this hand, we are able to play through an Ash Blossom. So I summon out the Rising Carp here. Of course, as I use its effect, I summon it back because my opponent's thinking, but they do end up using the Ash Blossom on it, which of course makes sense because obviously it is a very good card if it goes off. So we do lose the Rising Carp though. As mentioned, we do have the emergency teleport to continue our plays. We summon out Zayman. Zayman here can then search the Foxy Tune, and then we can turbo out Deer Note and go into our Therion package. In this case, I actually like to go for Wagon. The reason why is because we know he doesn't have Ash Blossom anymore to use since it's a hard once per turn effect. We also know he doesn't have, say, a Gamma, Imper most likely, nor a Droll. Droll is rising in main deck prevalence. So I go for the Wagon to try to regain some of the losses that I had suffered as a result of the Ash Blossom. And then the Ogre Dance can get out the Deer Note. I guess what does suck here is that because we don't have another name in hand, we are forced to use a field spell early. But, being able to draw cards and get as far as we can is nice. So we get out the Dragon Drive, use its effect, search Ogre, Ghost Ogre in this case, and then the Deer Note summons back the Rising Carp, so then we can make Sargass, which of course gives us access to the Therion package. So Sargass searches this Coliseum, we get Bullane. I didn't search out one of the Therion names immediately. That's what you'd normally do because you would have Deobalantis dump, say, Borea, and then you can search a Therion name directly, summon it, get Borea, and then Borea can search the spell Trap, since of course Borea can't search Therion names immediately, so using Sargass to search the Therion name immediately instead, and then using the Borea to search this Coliseum and thus indirectly search a Therion name is better there too. So we summon the Bullane, we then, the fast forward feature is pretty quick on Dueling Book, but yeah, I chose to get Bullane instead. Of course, we don't have any Therion names to grave anyway, so it's not like we can use Regulus. Though Baron also is a better negate in this situation than the Regulus itself, since Regulus does not destroy. In this case, I do feel pretty confident. We have the Baron defense, Sargass in defense for follow-up, this Coliseum, Ogre in hand, and then we draw the Drill off of the P.U.N.K field spell. As you will see, our opponent activates Prosperity, resolves Prosperity, they are playing Kashtira. At this point, when you're playing against Kashtira, there are obviously a couple things you have to consider. Fenrir being able to force out quite a bit of interruption, having to play around Kashtira Birth being such a great way to extend. Those are the main things. And then, of course, it's not relevant in this case, but Scareclaw Kashtira being able to force out, say, Baron's Negate. Otherwise, Kashtira does negate Baron, and then you can beat over it with whatever Kashtira name you have. That works too. So, we do drill him, of course. Since I'm playing against my friend, they're okay with me just, dropping the drill now. But realistically, when you're playing in a real match, you do want to make sure that you don't drop hand traps before they finish doing things. Otherwise, that can change how they play. In this case, I do it a little bit preemptively. I'm letting my guard down against him because I know him. But so yeah, in this case, he searches. What was it? I believe it was the unicorn. Yeah, it was the unicorn. So next play here, activates Birth, activates or summons Fenrir. He then normal summons the unicorn, and then this actually puts me in a very poor position just because we keep going forward. I'm thinking here, or no, he goes back. Sorry, he goes back. So use a Scareclaw Kashtira. Of course, I'm forced to negate this because if he can summon the Scareclaw Kashtira, he can then beat over the Baron since the Fenrir will. During battle, the Scareclaw Kashtira can negate the Baron itself, and then he can dispatch of the field spell. So I'm forced to negate this, and then he's allowed to commit here, and then this breaks the board. It doesn't even matter that I ogre the Birth because he can just normal summon the Kashtira Unicorn. Fenrir can beat over the Sargass, banish the field spell so I can't protect. Then the Unicorn can beat over the Baron since we're to use the Baron negate. In hindsight, going back to the very start of the turn, one thing me and my Kashtira opponent talked about is I could have chosen to negate the Birth immediately just because it's such a strong card, being able to extend without having to use additional effects. You activate Birth, and of course the extra normal isn't an activated effect, so that does put us in a pickle. So in hindsight, I could have negated it. Furthermore, another thing I could have done better this game was I could have chosen to keep the Baron and the Sargass in attack position. Lightning Storm isn't really that relevant in the current format as much as some people are playing it in lower tier decks. Also, not only that, but Lightning Storm isn't really be playing game 1. I mean, you will run into people who are playing at the YCS, but I could have kept these in attack position, and that would also have most likely avoided the situation, since he wouldn't be able to attack over both. So, he gets rid of both. He makes Shangri-La. Of course, there's nothing I can really talk back here to save me. The Therion name is close here, but the fact that Fenrir activates in a separate chain means that after I summon the Borea, he can just banish it, and then I lose. So that's why I choose this scoop here, and then we go to the next game. This next game, I draw Unfortunate, so it's not really that much of a contest here. Though I still try, you never know what your opponent could be drawing that could save you. So he Prosperities, he drops the D-Shifter. Doesn't bother us too much at the moment, just because Ash can be discarded, not sent to grave, though it does turn off our Therion package. So he searches Fenrir, puts all the other cards back on top of his deck, and then summons Fenrir. We negate it because obviously that is a good negate, though he is unfortunately playing Soravis. This is a very unique deck that you might see rising in Kashtira builds. It's along the same lines as Forbidden Lance, just the fact that you're able to protect your names from a lot of common targeting effects. In this case, it's Gabu, but you could say Effect Veiler. You could say opponent's Fenrirs, for example, trying to break Kashtira games in the mirror. So you might think this is outlandish, but there's actually reason for him to be playing the Soravis here. So unfortunately, yeah, the Fenrir resolves, and we keep going from here. You can see it's a really uphill battle. Even though I can Ash the E-Telly for Kashtira, he has enough extenders to just keep going. And so after I do end up drawing my last card here, I do end up scooping, as you will see. Not much else to be said here, unfortunately. Because what also sucks here is I'm under D-Shifter. So even if I normal summon Zayman, search the Foxy Tune, he can then banish the Xaymin, and then I can't even resolve Foxy Tune because Foxy Tune needs to be sent to graveyard. And under D-Shifter and under Rise Heart, you can't send Foxy Tune to graveyard. So I'll show you the rest of the game, but for the most part, that's it here, unfortunately. I switched to Foxy, realized that the game state is impossible to win, and then I eventually scoop. Yeah, to discard the... I tried to discard the Foxy Tune, but then we both realized that I can't do that. So, yeah. That was an unfortunate match 1, though you'll see that things do get slightly better during match number 2. So with match number 2, I lose a dice roll and I get to go second. And of course, this does suck for a combo deck like us, because of course, we're trying to go first and absolutely demolish our opponent with our multi-negate board with hand traps in hand. But this hand we opened is pretty solid, you know? We got Droll, we got Ash Blossom. So it does provide us, it provided me some consolation that maybe we can play through this. And you can see our opponent's hand isn't great, and as you will also see, he isn't able to play through it, because after we drop the Droll and the Unicorn, we can just choose to Ash Blossom the E-Telly for the deck, and then this puts him in a position where all he has set up is Unicorn. Of course, I didn't know that at the time, but I just did what I could with the hand traps, and things paid off. And sometimes that's what you have to do in these games. This is like a little bit away from the match itself, but everyone has ladder anxiety here and there, but you gotta understand, you gotta be confident in your abilities to do well, and sometimes it pays off. So we go into my turn. I forgot to mention, this is important for you all to know. It's in the wrong location right now, but the Unicorn does choose, our opponent does choose to Unicorn banish the Rising card, which does lock us off from the Sheriff Kusai play. So I want you to keep that in mind, because that is the reason why the next couple of plays looks a little bit weird than normal. So what happens is Rising card should be banished. We'll fix it later. I discard the Foxy Tune. Initially I send the Wagon, but then I realized that I do need the Wagon to be able to extend. So I then choose to discard the Veiler instead, since ideally if our opponent doesn't have any hand traps, we can OTK. So I'm just trying to maximize the amount of extenders I have. So we go Xaymin, search. We search a Deer Note. This is important to note as well, because sometimes I have stress searching Ogre Dance to thin out your deck before you go for your P.U.N.K line and draw cards. However, Droll is on the rise right now, which is why I've chosen to start not searching Ogre Dance with Xaymin, and instead searching the name that I want directly. Unless of course it is Foxy Tune, which you can't search off of Ogre Dance. So in this case, it pays off. He does have the Droll. So I'm able to still do my P.U.N.K combo, albeit to a lessened effect. So we send Deer Note, we send Xaymin, we make Diablantis. Reason here is, of course, Regulus is in hand. We can't search with Sargass under Droll, so might as well do what we can here. I send Regulus, or I send Borea, use Regulus, summon it. Our opponent uses Unicorn again. The Rising card was on the previous turn when I chose to Ash Blossom his Kashtira Theosis. So yeah, he banishes the Zeus here. He realizes down the line that... I'll talk about this later. But yeah, basically, continue our plays. I make Cardmaker Regulus. His hand was, what, Gamma, Trap card, and I forget what the last card was, but you'll be able to go back and see it. So it wasn't enough to break our board. The one thing I do want to note is going back through that game, one thing my opponent did admit to is that he could have chosen to Unicorn prior to me summoning Diablantis and banishing the Diablantis instead. And that would have been the correct play. The reason why is because under Droll, I can't really go for anything else. I can't make Dragite because the Rising Carp is banished. I am playing Dragite. And then, of course, Dragon Drive doesn't do anything in this situation. So had he chosen to banish the Diablantis instead of our currently banished Zeus, then I wouldn't have been able to not only summon Regulus, but then make Carpenter. Of course, I still would have been able to make Zeus. I do play Dingrisu, so we could have went Dingrisu, summon, attack over his Unicorn, and then make Zeus as a sort of disruption. So that would have been slightly weaker, of course, than the Orbital. So on to the next game. I am forced to go second again, because of course Kashtira usually wants to go first. And we open another pretty solid hand, honestly. 2 hand traps is nice, even into Kashtira, which can sometimes extend enormously. So he leads off with Unicorn. We don't have to roll, unfortunately. He activates Kashtira Theosis. Of course, we choose to Ash this. I believe that this is probably the best Ash target for this deck. The field spell feels kind of iffy to negate, since you maintain it on board, and then if they have any sort of extenders, they can just keep going. So if you're playing Kashtira, you kind of want to Ash this instead. So that's what I do here. Unicorn resolves, banishes our Rising Carp again, which is correct here. Rising Carp is one of the best extenders in this deck. Continues off, summons Fenrir. Fenrir searches Rise Heart summons. So at this point, you can see I'm on a bit of a pickle. I don't realize it yet, but like him being able to set up Shangri-La and a Rise Heart is a little bit problematic. I cope a little bit because, you know, maybe there's a chance, but you'll see here I scoop soon. And that's just how it be sometimes, you know, sometimes your opponent opens just strong enough to play through your hand traps, and or you don't open the right combination of hand traps. And this is why really we have to be really careful about this matchup as P.U.N.K players, is because a Rise Heart shuts off so much of this variant, not only being able to shut down the Foxy Tune, but also being able to shut down Deer Note, Ogre Dance, all your Therion names, since you can't get them in Graveyard. So that is just something you have to keep in mind when you're not only siding for the deck, but also when playing matches. So given that I lost game 2 but still won game 1, we go into the final coveted game 3. And I'm going first because I have the option to, and I open a pretty good hand. Reason why is because Troll is obviously great against Kashtira. Furthermore, we have the Gamma to protect our plays, namely the Foxy Tune, Teleport, and Rising Card. So we go forward, Ogre Dance, discard, search Xaymin. I suppose in hindsight that might not have been the best play, since he could have just rolled me there and maybe I would have been limited in options. But I feel like given we had Foxy Tune and Xaymin, we could still go for the Deer Note line and do fine. If they have a draw, it's not like we can play through it very well anyways. So we summon the Xaymin. My opponent chooses the Gamma after thinking about it. I think this is a relatively fair hit to an extent. I do think he could have saved it for something else, like say Rising Carp or Foxy Tune. But since it is a normal summon, we are committing it, and that does force us to get the Foxy Tune out, so I don't completely disagree with his play here. So he gets out the Gamma, we reveal Itali, unfortunate for him, get out Shirakusai, and I choose the Shirakusai here. Reason why is because at this point, he hasn't rolled us, he can't imperm us. If he has Veiler or Ghost Mourner, that does suck, but chances are low, given the relevance of those hand traps in the current format, and I don't really need the Foxy to resolve here. So, move forward, I choose to make Rising Carp. He D-shifters on resolution. There is an argument for him to have D-shifted instead during the standby phase. That would have played into my Gamma, but then that would have played into his Gamma, and I would have been under D-shifter from the start. That is something he does end up regretting later. I'll comment more about it later, but yeah, he should have activated the D-shifter much earlier to stop my plays. Because now, in spite of D-shifter being such a devastating card for us, we can keep going. And what also adds insult to injury, or injury to insult, I forget what the saying is, we do have the Gamma here for any potential disruption. So I do commit because we do need to establish something. So I go forward, I summon Deer Note Wagon, we get the field spell, summon Dragon Drive, search with Dragon Drive. In this case, I search the Madam Spider. We then use Extreme Session, summon out the Madam Spider. We draw an Ash off the Dragon Drive, which is nice. You know, drawing into our hand trap is always great. I then get Madam Spider on field, attempt to search the trap card. My opponent chooses to Ash it, as you will see. I didn't ask him for his logic here, but I think it's just because he was trying to reduce me getting a negate after I was able to keep playing through here. He does admit, I think later on, that he could have just Ashed the Dragon Drive and that would have saved him the time. Also the extra trigger on Extreme Session, though, yeah, that's how it is. And I choose to commit to the Punisher here, mainly because E-Shifter does last into the subsequent turn, so I didn't want him to just dispatch of all these names that could have been committed to something bigger. So I commit to the Psychic Hand Punisher here, knowing that he only has 3 cards in hand. We have enough hand traps to potentially stop him, and Kashtira don't have that great of an out to Punisher if you do, of course, hand trap them. So you can probably tell where this game's going. Given the hand traps and given his hand, he can't Dark Ruler no more my Psychic Hand Punisher, and I have Ash for the Kashtira Theosis, so he scoops and we win. Yeah, so this was a very, or actually no, let me do a quick cut just for the sake of making sure I don't make any mistakes. Okay, so basically what these two matches hope to showcase to you, despite my long-form rant on or long-form commentary on the games themselves, is just trying to showcase to you some games, how you can play Punk through different hand traps, through certain matchups. Going forward in the future, I'm obviously going to try and improve these videos, as for the most part this video was more, again, long-form commentary without any particular structure. So giving more structure might be nice, as you'll have a better skeleton to follow, but otherwise maybe you were able to learn a little bit. That is the overall goal of these videos, to give you some real-life gameplay so that you can understand how to play this deck for whenever you take it to locals, regionals, YCSs, wherever you want to take Punk in the future. Remember to like and subscribe. As I always say, I do appreciate it. Remember to leave feedback, as I had already stated in this conclusion, but I'm going to say it again, because I do value it a lot in terms of improving these videos. Otherwise, thank you for watching. My name is Toon World, and I will see you next time.